Have you ever felt like your brainstorming sessions aren't quite as productive as you would like them to be? Well, today I am going to share something you might be missing and why it plays a crucial role in your creative process. Hello, friend and fellow adventurer. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing our cozy countdown to the end of the year by diving into my little system I created a few years ago called the Sidequester Strategy Guide. Today we are officially shifting into the first phase, that is the gather phase. But before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons. You are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me. If you are interested in following along on my self-publishing journey or all of the behind the scenes things, which are a lot of things and projects that I do, then feel free to join the Rooted Guild on Patreon. There's also a robust resource library that I am continuing to grow and expand. So if that's something you're interested, check out the links below. If you missed the first video, that is all right. You can catch it right here, but I will give you a quick overview of the Sidequester Strategy Guide before we dive into our phase one, which is the gather phase. The Sidequester Strategy Guide is a flexible framework that I came up with to help creatives manage their ideas instead of being overwhelmed by them. Now, this isn't a formula and it's not a quick fix overnight, I'm gonna go viral tomorrow solution. This is a system, a flexible framework, something that you can integrate into your life, retrofit to your personal needs, and the goal is for you to use this in the long term. As creatives, we talk about the creative process a lot, but very rarely do we have these tangible items to really help us understand where we're at in our creative process and what's actually happening. The Sidequester Strategy Guide is a way to visualize your creative process, to help you get from I'm having a thought babosa, moving our ideas from thought into action. Today we are in the gather phase. So if you have missed the first video or you don't want to go watch the first video, that is okay. You haven't missed anything. You can feel free to start here. But if you're somebody who likes all the nitty-gritty details, I encourage you to go back to that other video. Okay, so for those of us who have stayed here, as I said earlier, this draws inspiration from my favorite game, Skyrim. It's my favorite video game ever, and there's so many lessons that you can pull from Skyrim. Actually, one of my best friends from college is just now starting to play the game, and she uses Skyrim as these analogies for life and creativity all the time, and I told her, I know. Now you understand my chaotic brain. One of the things I love about Skyrim is that you can gather raw materials and you can make any number of items. You can pick up nearly anything in Skyrim, and I love this part of the game because it just adds an extra flair to this open world game that I already love. But the fact that I can walk around and grab raw materials and make a house or nails or armor or a potion, any of those things is just so cool. And in the same way, creatives need to be like that when it comes to brainstorming. And this first phase, the gather phase, is all about that. It's about brainstorming. Now, most of us are pretty familiar with brainstorming or brain dumping. That is kind of this idea generation where we are mining for ideas to help us move forward. However, sometimes we get in this brainstorming session and realize we're just not being as productive as we should be or we were planning to be. From my personal experience in my own journey and watching other creatives, a big reason behind this is because we are filtering too soon. If you watched my other video, then you know I hammered this point home, but I'm going to hammer this point home again. We filter way too soon and way too often as creatives. We have so much comparison going on. We've heard so many negative things about maybe our creative process or our potential, whatever it might be. We get bogged down by the words of the world and we start filtering out our ideas. When we are starting off right out the gate, brainstorming, starting off on our creative process, that idea generation step, that first step, we like to filter, and we really should not be filtering at this point at all. If you've played Skyrim at all, then I want to know, are you a hoarder or are you a little bit more of a minimalist? I will tell you, I'm a bit of a hoarder. I am often at the very, very top end of my carrying capacity. I will pick up anything at any time, no matter what, just because I want to pick it up. And if you've played, then you know you can pick up nearly anything. You can pick up burnt books, even. I mean, things that really would have not a lot of use, you can pick up. I tend to want everything in my inventory just in case. Once you start playing a little bit longer, then you realize there are going to be some items you run into that are more valuable than the random tankard you picked up in a dungeon. And so you have to drop this item in order to pick up this item. My husband, on the other hand, is a little more of a minimalist when it comes to his strategy on gathering items in Skyrim. He's very particular about what he's going to pick up. Is it helpful? Is it useful? Does it have value? He likes to have a lot of space in his carrying capacity. Now, both approaches are beneficial depending on your particular type of gameplay. But to bring it back to our world, our creative process here and now, we need to take more of a foraging approach when we are in the gather phase. We need to take that, I'm picking up everything. I'm allowing all of my ideas to come and be a part of the inventory. It's not time to filter. There's plenty of time to set things aside later, to look at the quality of those ideas. But right now, we are not concerned about filtering. Why is this important? Why does it matter? Why does it matter that you not filter your ideas when you are in a brainstorming session? If I start cutting off those ideas, those what I call helicopter ideas, right? The ones that are so out there, I'm not believing that I will ever grow, my capacity will ever expand, that my resources will ever get bigger. I'm always thinking and brainstorming based on where I'm at currently. There is something that is lost when we filter ideas too soon because we simply don't see how it would ever be possible. This YouTube channel is small and I have a long way to hit some of the goals that I want. But having a YouTube channel in the first place was a brainstorm helicopter idea at one point. I thought there's no way I'm ever going to be able to do that. There's no way I'm ever going to have enough confidence to start. There's no way that I'm ever going to do a YouTube channel. It's just impossible. If I would have filtered out that idea, I would never be here. Okay, and there are things that I'm brainstorming now, some visions that I have for this channel and other things that in my head right now I'm thinking there's no way I'm ever going to be able to do that. But instead of filtering out those ideas, I just kept them and I collected them and I let them sit in the inventory until it was time to take action on those ideas. My self-publishing journey is another great example. I would have never in a million years imagined that I would write a book, let alone a fantasy book, let alone a fantasy duology, let alone actually publish it. But I just kept telling myself, okay, this is a wild idea. I'm not going to filter it out. It's a crazy idea. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I'm not going to filter it out. I'll just keep it there. I'll keep it simmering in the background. I'll put it in the inventory. And now yesterday, a year-ish after I started writing this story, I picked up a physical copy of my second draft that is now in the hands of 3 beta readers. If I would have filtered out that idea from the beginning, I would have never gotten to this point. That is why it's so important for you to not filter your ideas in the brainstorming phase, even if it feels like an impossible idea, and maybe it is an impossible idea, but you don't know because you don't know what you don't know yet. You don't know where you're going to be in the future. You don't know where the path is going to take you. You don't know what being consistent and continuing to practice, what that will do for your creative journey. Do not filter your ideas. Don't do it. Not in this phase. Later we can do that. Not in the brainstorming phase. Brainstorming should be free of filtering. It should be unfiltered. All right, I think I have made my point there. So before we end this video, I want to give you 4 essentials to unfiltered brainstorming. These are things that I try to incorporate in all of my brainstorming sessions, and I think that they will be helpful for you as well. The first essential to unfiltered brainstorming is quantity over quality. More often than not, we hear the opposite. Quality over quantity. And there is certainly a time for that, and that will come in, I believe, phase 3 for us. But right now, we need quantity over quality. We want to keep ourselves open. We want to keep our minds free. We want to allow ourselves the helicopter ideas. And if we're thinking about quantity, the number, how many ideas could I possibly think of? How many angles can I approach this from? That is going to go much better for you in the long run when it does come time to filter ideas than if you start now. The second essential to unfiltered brainstorming is to write everything down. I talk about this a lot, and I will continue to talk about this until I'm blue in the face. The gather phase is all about collecting and capturing your ideas. How many ideas have you had that you said, I am not going to forget this is so good, blah, 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 and then you don't write them down, and sure enough, 30 minutes later, it's gone. This happens to me often. Even now, when I know I need to capture my ideas when they come to me immediately, there are times that I forget and it is gone. It's gone. It's gone. And I have a great memory. You need to capture your ideas. Write them down. If you are not a pen and paper person, there are plenty of different ways that you can capture your ideas, whether that be on the Notes app, a list, Notion. I mean, heck, if you want to text yourself, you can do that. I've certainly done that. Voice memo yourself. There are so many ways that you can capture your ideas. And the idea of quantity over quality also applies here. Don't worry about needing to organize your ideas right now. There will come a time to organize your ideas. The most important part is capturing them. I have a catch-all notebook that I physically write everything in. And sometimes some of my ideas are scattered other places because if I'm driving or if I'm, somewhere inconvenient where I don't have my notebook, I have to jot something down somewhere else. But I do not worry about organization at this point. It's all about capturing, making sure that my ideas do not get lost in the ether. Okay, so write your ideas down, capture your ideas. That's the second essential. The third essential to unfiltered brainstorming is to suspend judgment. Suspend judgment against yourself, against your capacity, against your ideas, against your resources, all of it. You need to set aside judgment. You need to set aside comparison. Allow your ideas to simply exist without anything else other than existing. Just like in Skyrim, we are just gathering raw materials. Sometimes we have no idea. We're just foraging. We don't know what we're going to use them for. We don't know if we're going to use them for a potion or if we are going to make a new item or plant something at our house. Like sometimes we have no idea what we are picking up the item for, what we're going to use it for, and that is okay. It sits in our inventory until we're ready. Same thing here with your ideas. Suspend judgment. Don't start thinking about, well, I failed last time and I really don't have enough time and I really don't have enough money. Doesn't matter right now because right now we are simply collecting and capturing your ideas. Third essential of unfiltered brainstorming, suspend judgment. The fourth and final essential to unfiltered brainstorming is to embrace the mess. This is something that you are going to have to get comfortable with through every phase of the Side Quester Strategy Guide. This is something you will need to embrace for your entire creative process, but especially when you are in a brainstorming session, you need to embrace the mess. You need to embrace the mess. You need to understand that right now, nothing needs to be set in stone. Nothing needs to be organized. There are no goals that need to be set in place. Nothing needs to be known exactly right now. This is an opportunity for you to just be. Allow your mind, your creativity to take the wheel and let your perfectionism, comparison, hustle culture needs to, I mean, you can just throw them out the window, but at least let them take a back seat in this phase. The fourth and final essential to unfiltered brainstorming is embrace the mess. Creative process is supposed to be messy. One last thing before we sign off, when you are in the gather phase, specifically when you are in a brainstorming session, this is a great time to bring up your archived ideas. We will talk more about archived ideas later. What I'm talking about is bringing up some of those ideas that maybe have been simmering in the background. Maybe those ideas we were chatting about earlier that they were a little crazy at the time, but maybe now you've grown or things have changed. Maybe your capacity has shifted or your resources are more than they were before. Bring back those ideas, the ones that are helicopter ideas that you've shelved. They might not be helicopter ideas anymore. And this is why it's so important to capture and write everything down, because one day when you come back to it, you'll want to know what you thought was a helicopter idea back then that's no longer a helicopter idea. This first phase is honestly one of the easiest and yet one of the hardest, because you will find very quickly how often you filter your ideas when you are brainstorming. But I promise you, it will change things when you shift into an unfiltered brainstorming session. Well, fellow side quester, I hope that was helpful for you today. Next week, we will be diving into phase 2, which is the catalog phase, and we'll have a lot of fun there as well. If you're just joining us on this journey, then make sure to check the description so that you get all of the information for all of the things. And I want to hear from you. Was this helpful? Do you feel like this is applicable to you in your brainstorming sessions? Do you feel like this will make a difference moving forward? Well, that's all I got for you today, and I will see you next time. Bye.